So joining us for the latest Ade Asks interview, we have not only an internet star, a TV star, but mostly a goalkeeper for Slough Town. It's a warm welcome to Jamie Jackson. Jacko, how are you?
Not bad, mate. Thank you very much. Good to see you.
That's good. Thank you for taking the time out. I know we've fitted you into your jet-setting lifestyle.
More now than ever.
Malibu looks quite nice behind you, mate.
Surprising, isn't it, how good Datchet looks on a shoddy Wednesday night when the thunder comes rolling across. It is actually Datchet.
Yeah. You mean Dashay?
Dashay.
Dashay,
yeah.
A bit posh.
Dashay Golf Club.
Right, so what we're going to do, we're going to talk about, obviously, your Slough career, which we'll get on to and stuff like that. But first of all, of course, you're now known for #United. And I think the last time I saw you, you'd broken your leg. Was it like a pre-season friendly or the first game of last season, and you'd broken your leg?
It's kind of a catalogue of errors, really. I mean, obviously, the hashtag kind of setup is based in Essex, so we played Bowers and Pitsea on a Wednesday night in a pre-season friendly, and the guys had I think they were playing Canby or something on a Saturday, and the boss said that the reserves are playing in a friendly tournament, pre-season tournament in Caversham. So he said, if you want to go and get 50 minutes, half hour there, you're more than welcome. So stupidly, I agreed. So I rolled up to a pre-season tournament there where, unbeknown to me, everyone there were kind of wannabe internet sides, really. I'm not saying for 1 minute that I was targeted or anything, but our reputation kind of comes in front of us with hashtag a little bit. So it was a bad tackle. The lad, I wouldn't say he knew what he was doing, but he kind of left his leg in late. So I fractured my fibula, one of the two, tibia. But yeah, it was a nasty fracture. I've never had it before. Come out to clear the ball. We had a straight leg. I kicked through it. I knew straight away it had gone. Unfortunately, there was no St John's ambulance anywhere near, so I actually dragged myself with my leg trailing behind me off the pitch so they could carry on. It was no fun. The gas and air was good on the bright side. That's always a plus. But yeah, I spent. They originally said to me 6 to 9 months, but it actually took the full 9/10. So I played a little bit of football in March this year, just as the world turned upside down and COVID hit. So I've just got back to it now. Really, pre-season obviously is underway, and I'm fit enough to kind of carry on with that. One more year, as I keep saying, one more year.
You do, don't you? So for those people that don't know a little bit about #United, you started out as kind of like an internet YouTube football club playing charity events, events like that, and then you started to play non-league football as well. How did it all go?
It was so the kind of way it panned out, I'd pretty much finished playing. Oddly enough, I was having my last stint with Slough. I mean, Bakes and Unders were good enough to take me back on just as a training partner, really, for the boys, Scotty and obviously Jack. And then I played a couple of games, and it was horrible, really, because I knew that I wasn't up to the standard anymore, and I didn't want to go out that way. I played a couple of games in the Berks and Bucks, and it just wasn't working out. I didn't feel great, and I kind of felt like I was flogging a dead horse a little bit. So I knew it was time to kind of jack it all in. It was sad because I'd had such good times at Slough, and you don't want to go out as the old flailing goalkeeper that still wants to try and do it and can't. That's not to say, Bakes and Unders, I can't still do a job if you need me, because I have played in the last 3 decades, the 90s, the noughties and 10s. So if they can get me a run out in the Berks and Bucks over the next couple of years, that'll be 4 decades that I covered. So don't rule me out yet. But bizarrely, a few of my mates played for this team called #United. Started off as purely like a Harlem Globetrotters, really, because they had such a big internet following. People would invite us to come and play them to advertise a product or some sort of scheme they were doing. Played a couple of games, kind of created a little bit of a persona, really. I was lucky enough to have a sort of villainish persona that befits the face, which the kids kind of bought into and watch it. The target audience is obviously 9, 10 up to like 17, 18. But we were having kids watching, a million kids watching every game that we played against poor opposition, really. But it kind of spiraled out of control. I started as a bit part player. Obviously, my kind of character, as it were, took off a little bit. And yeah, all of a sudden we were going to America, to Spain, playing at all the Premier League grounds, Wembley twice, bizarrely. Not many people do that in their 40s. But it's been great. It's reinvigorated me. I've really enjoyed it. And then on the back of that, obviously, the story kind of transpired that #United have now become a fully fledged semi-pro team, something I didn't really want to go back into, but did at a much lower level. But we won the league in the first year. We would have won the, what I believe is step 6 last year. We would have won the Essex Senior League. They boys would have won it. They were top of the league, and we had the best points per game. I think second best points per game at that level. So had they gone on PPG, we'd have got promoted again. So I'll be there this season, back in the Essex Senior League, plying my trade. I say for one more year. The trouble is, I don't know what else I do. I'm out here tonight trying to throw some golf clubs about very, very badly. So football's the only thing I can do. A lot of people said I still say I can't do that either.
I was going to say, where do you put your Zimmer frame when you're in goal?
Bizarrely, I'm fitter now than I ever have been. I kind of, I don't know when it was, probably my early 30s. I mean, when I joined Slough the second time, what was the second time in 2007, I was at my biggest. I mean, I was 18 and a half stone. I was a big lump. Some of the pictures are horrendous when I look back. But it didn't really bother me then, because I was young enough to kind of carry it. But then in my early 30s, I shed a few stone. I'm probably 3.5 stone, 4 stone lighter now. But I feel fittish. As I say, the level of football's lower than what I've played before. So, I mean, the last season I played, which would have been 2 seasons ago now, I had a great season. I got the supporters player of the season, and I felt really good. I find it, they say kind of goalkeepers grow into it a bit, don't they? And I do find it very easy. I find it a lot easier now than I did. Looking back, I was very maybe naive as a goalkeeper, which maybe it's true what they say. You do kind of grow into it. You relax into it. You read things better. I don't have to dive as much because I kind of know where to put myself. So I just make sure I take two walking stick steps to my left before I have to dive. All these young kids diving, it's a mugs game. No need to do it. It's all up here.
Well, they say that goalkeepers are crazy. So I guess as you get old, you're getting less crazy. So maybe that's what it is.
Yeah, I don't know. It's funny, really. I mean, it's harder for me now in regards to the team bonding, because I've always been it's always been about the team for me. I think a lot of people would say that I was never the best, but I cared. I always cared, no matter where I went. I always cared. I wanted to do well and the best for whatever club I was at, no matter who it was. I was always part of the club. I'd always make sure that we'd get around each other. We'd be in the bar. We'd be sociable with the supporters as well. And now, as I get older, that's not as much part of the game anymore. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's for the better or for the worse. But the younger lads are now, they're all a lot fitter, a lot keener. The drinking culture is kind of very different. I mean, I was brought up in a drinking culture. That's what it was when we was back at Wexham Park in the day. When I was a 16, 17-year-old lad, it was all about the Saturday night. That's kind of what you were aiming for all week. Sometimes even a Thursday night after training, it'd be 4 or 5 pints of shandy. Walking home, obviously. But that kind of culture's gone, and I'm becoming a bit of a dinosaur, really, is what I'm trying to say. At the ripe old age of 42 now, it's hard to kind of be in the changing room around 17, 18, 19-year-olds. Music's too loud. I've always been a purveyor of good music, and when you start moaning about the music, I think that's time definitely time to walk away.
You are feeling old then, aren't you?
Yeah, that's it.
So is through hashtag, is that how you got onto Soccer AM?
A little bit of both, really. I mean, at the time, my first appearance was probably about 6 years ago now. I'd done the last show that Helen Chamberlain did, funny enough, with Fenners, John Fenley. It was Helen's last show. I think we kind of knew it at the time, but a good friend of mine, his sister-in-law, worked on the show as a floor manager, and at that time they used a different goalkeeper every week. So pretty sure I was at Hashtag at that point, and previous to that, about 2 months before that Hashtag, we'd played a Soccer AM or Sky Sports team. So I knew a few of the lads, they knew me. I got invited in for the last game, done the last show, really enjoyed it. That would have been in the May, the last show of the season. The following season, in the August, the guys were doing a the drill down in Southampton, and Southampton couldn't get a goalkeeper. So I got the phone call from the boys to go down there to do a the drill with I think it was James Ward-Prowse, Shane Long, and it kind of snowballed from that point, really. Obviously, the Hashtag thing was taking off, and then I'm on a shoot. Sounds really big time, doesn't it? On a shoot outside on an OB, an outside broadcast. I was doing this thing down in Southampton with these Premier League players, with Jimmy Bullard, Tubes, Fenners, and it was great. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I was lucky enough. I've probably done 5 or 6 more of them that season. A few live shows. It kind of hurt me a little bit because Lloyd Griffith joined, who was a comedian and wanted to be a goalkeeper on the show. So that kind of knocked it back, because I think I was in line to kind of do it week in, week out. Same as when I broke my leg, I was kind of lined up to be on there every week. Broke my leg 3 weeks before the show started, and then they kind of rotated it between 5 or 6 different goalkeepers last season. But fingers crossed, when I do stop playing, hopefully I'll probably have maybe even this season, I'll have a full season of Soccer AM, because it's great fun. It's obviously it was an institution when we were kids, or when I was younger. That was what we did. I mean, 4 games on a Saturday when we meet the coach, we'd be in the bar to have your breakfast pre-match, and then you'd watch Soccer AM while you was having breakfast before you went and played your game on a Saturday. So yeah, it's great fun. I get to meet some great people, and obviously it's nice to be on the telly.
You become a bit of a celebrity, haven't you, really?
Yeah, it's bizarre, considering I've got a face for radio. How much I get my mug on the TV. But yeah, it all kind of fell into place. The Hashtag thing spiraled out of control. The Soccer AM thing went well for me. Before you know it, I've got 40-odd thousand Instagram followers. My missus couldn't believe it. She thought it was all nonsense. You think I thought I was becoming big time, so she says. But I'd literally go to an airport, go on holiday, and kids would run up to me like, Jacko, are you the scariest man in football? And oh my God, it's Hashtag Jacko. And it's just me, the same basic non-league goalkeeper that plied his trades at a dozen clubs in Berkshire and Buckinghamshire that hadn't changed, just got older, and obviously kids have bought into the fact that I was an angry, scary man. But it's been great. It's been great for me. Obviously, being at the latter years of my career has prolonged me playing, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it, every minute of it. I've been very lucky.
So, as you're now a major celebrity, if someone offers you a celebrity reality show, what you're up to? You're going to do I'm a Celebrity, bit Strictly, not with your back.
They're obviously they're way above my station, but there is a potential. I have spoken to someone quite recently about quite a decent reality TV show. It's not a celebrity one, but a guy thought I might be a good fit for a certain show on, I believe it's Channel 4, where they kind of hunt people down. Yeah,
not Love Island then.
No, I don't think my missus would be overly happy with that either. I do love Ireland, given half the chance. If the money was right, I'd be straight on there. But no, I don't. I think I've done a pilot with Jimmy Bullard last year, and one of the guys on there, the executive producers, also covers Hunted. So I've been in his ear hole, and we've been talking about that for a while. But I don't know. I don't know if I'm PC enough to go on there. It's one thing being hashtag Jacko on camera, but when the camera's off, I don't know if I could handle my P's and Q's that well for that long. And especially if I took someone with me, my fuse ain't that great.
I can just see these two people from hunting chasing you down on your little mobility scooter.
Oh, stop it. I'm not 8. 42, man. Seriously. Zimmers.
Right, so we now know that you're famous and you're going to be on every major TV show, Coronation Street and whatever next, you know. Let's talk about football then. Slough Town.
Yep.
We'll talk about mainly because obviously that's why we're here.
Yep.
But you were first with Slough in the conference, but you never made an appearance. You must have been, what, 16, 17 at the time?
Yeah,
I guess there was only one. There was no goalkeeper subs, were there, at those times?
No. It was a funny time for me and the club, really. I mean, I was very lucky. I followed Slough since I was a kid. I just wait for a train to go by. The Dash A train has just run past. It was a great club back then. It still is a great club, but back then especially, I'd followed Slough since I was a kid, since I was 10, 11, 12. Used to go home, some away games. My granddad lived in Wales, used to go and watch Merthyr away. I was very lucky to be involved in a good youth setup under Alan Paris. And then I was actually playing for Burnham Reserves at the time. We played Slough. Gary Bree was manager. We played against him. He said, "Why are you playing with the youth team and not playing for us?" I said, "Well, I didn't think I'd get in." Went from there, really. I signed a contract, same time as Grant Eaton. Me and Grant Eaton both signed contracts. Pretty sure it was before Lloyd signed his as well. Mr. Aruza, I'm sure he didn't sign until a year later, so he was obviously better prospects than Lloyd were. But me and Grant signed at the same time under Brian McDermott when Brian first came in. It's a great club, great setup, very professionally run, which probably was my downfall really at the time. I was a cocky young kid, thought I was going places. Alan Paris had put me on to Watford at the time. I spent a couple of months there under Kenny Jackett in the YTS setup, as it was back then when they had YTS. And I think I got above myself. So I wasn't playing. Brian was looking to sort me out a loan move at the time to, I'm not sure it was, but it was Ryman 1 team, just to get me out some games. And I'd done some stupid things. I trod on Brian's toes when I never should have, and it put me in a bad light. I played some local Sunday football. I'm pretty sure the ref knew who I was. I played left wing or something. And I got booked within minutes of coming on. I got booked. I begged and pleaded him not to put it in, and he did. And I was really in Brian's bad books from that moment on. I'd done myself no favours, really. I turned up late to a session one Saturday that he put on especially for me, and I think from that point on my card was marked. Because as I say, it was a very good setup, a very professional setup. I mean, really at that time we was unlucky. We could have gone up. I think with the squad that we had and the money that was spent, I think we could have, maybe should have been there or thereabouts. And I'd put myself in a bad light with Brian, and that was kind of the end of it for me, really. My contract never got renewed. And then
I guess it's hard as well because you're, like I say, there's no chance of you being on the bench or anything because there's only, I think, 2 or 3 subs in that kind of time, and they don't really put a goalkeeper on.
Looking back, I was raw. I was only 16, 17. I was raw. As I say, goalkeepers coming of age. I went to Marlow the next season under Dave Russell, and I was crap. I got shown up for the step up to men's football was bigger than I imagined. We were lucky at Slough. The reserve team won everything. We blitzed everything every season, winning the Suburban League and all the cups that went with it, which kind of protected me, I think, a little bit. And then when it came to like real men's football, when I went to Marlow, I think we was in Ryman Div 2 back then, and it was like I was a shrinking violet, really. And I realised I was a little bit out of my depth, and my mouth was doing far too much talking for me to back up, really. So Brian was well within his rights. It was right, and maybe looking back, I didn't fulfil the potential that I had when I was a little bit younger. I didn't step up enough, and it hurt me. I was so disappointed because everyone knows. I mean, I used to stand on the terraces, as I say, from the age of 10 to 15. I was there all the time at Wexham Park. I loved the place. I loved the club, and I was really gutted when they said that they weren't going to keep me on. did try to stay on no matter what, and it was like I'd burnt the bridges. As I say, justified really. I'd got above my station and didn't deserve to be there.
But good things come to those that wait, and 10 years later, you make your debut, but I guess not in the right kind of team, because that was the year that we struggled, wasn't it?
It was a real tough time. The club was in a real tough position. Obviously, it was at Stag Meadow then. That wasn't in any fit state, to be honest with you. It was terrible. But obviously the club was snookered in regards to grounds. I think that was the catalyst really to get us out there and go to Beaconsfield that season. Financially, I don't know what people know, but financially the club was obviously functioning, but the playing budget wise there was nothing there. It was really, really tight. You need money. No matter what level it is, even at the level I'm playing now at hashtag, you need some sort of funds. We didn't have a playing budget to compete, and Wilco backed me up on this. It was some weeks it was kind of who's going to be there, who can turn up. Training sessions were a little bit like that, because if you don't pay the money, you don't have a pull on anybody. You can't drag people in. You can't scream and shout at people. And Wilco kind of was well up against it. I was lucky, really. I mean, I was always paid. Never once was I not paid. My wages, I believe, were kind of guaranteed via the trust or something. So I had a chat with the Slisky when I joined. God bless him. And the funds were always there. But I know full well that the playing budget was very, very small, if not non-existent. We were dependent on players that just wanted to kind of play Ryman League football, as it was then. And we were well up against it. You had the old stalwarts. Wilco was dragging himself about. His knees had gone. Daly in front of me, head on a stick. Heart of a lion, but the body wasn't was struggling along with it. And then it was kind of a bunch of also rents. Apart from the brother-in-law who's sat over there, who's going to have to write up. Terry Davis was with us then, who banged some goals. But it was kind of, we were there really for the club. You weren't there for wages because you didn't earn any money out of it. We were never getting paid anything other than petrol money and a couple of beer tokens, really. So it was a bad time for the club. It was tough. I was happy to be back at the club, I won't lie. We were still getting 250, 300 people every week. I remember, I think it was the following season, maybe we went to Newport Isle of Wight. Might have been the same season. And it was taking 200, 250 people on the ferry. It was just ridiculous. I think we actually went there and won, bizarrely, as well.
We did, yeah, 3-1.
We did win 3-1, yeah. And you kind of look about, and that was always my drive, really, playing for the club, was the people that were there week in, week out, that stuck by that club through some really bad times. I mean, those were the lowest of the low. That time at Stag Meadow, I felt for the people that came week in, week out, because it was dross. It was dross football. We were so bad. We were up against it, and they knew we were up against it. But you don't want the pity vote. You want to go out there and perform and make people happy that are coming to football every Saturday, and bring the club back to where it should be, which is where it is now, thankfully, I'm glad to say.
During that time, that first season, there's a certain game against Wimbledon. I want to tell you my story, because the week before we got relegated away to Walton and Hersham when I lived in Walton. I didn't go to the pub for a good 4 or 5 days because I was having so much mickey taken out of me. We then went to AFC.
Tough day, Walton, as well. I think we might have gone 2-1 up at one stage at Walton. I think we got beat 4-2 because Hodgie scored a couple, I think, for them, didn't he?
Yeah. So we went to AFC Wimbledon, which is, again, just down the road because they were playing at Kingstonian.
Yeah.
We went there. All the fans, I know the game's going to be different for you, and we'll talk about that. But all the fans were just having a party. We'd already been, in theory, been relegated. We knew that. We had a great time. We sang throughout the game. Took the mickey out of AFC Wimbledon when they ran out of songs after 7 goals. They didn't have a song for 8-0. It was fantastic. The fans were walking past us going, how can you support a team that's 8-9-0 down? My missus came and picked me up just about 500 yards down the road, and got in the car, and she said, "Oh, you're happy? You must have won." I could hear Slough fans singing for 5 minutes after the game, and I turned around and said, "No, we lost 9-0." And it was just one of those days for fans where it was brilliant. For you, it's got to be completely the opposite.
It's a bittersweet memory because I remember walking out on that pitch. It was the most people at that time. It was the most people I played in front of. I think it was about 3,500 there that day. I knew it was on a hiding to nothing. I knew it, but I remember coming out of the tunnel, and I remember during the warm up as well. But I remember turning left, and I remember seeing faces of people I knew with amber and blue balloons everywhere. Singing, clapping, drumming, shouting. It was, you can't, I kind of get goosebumps now. You couldn't help but be proud. You can't help but be proud. Serving with honour, says it on the badge, doesn't it? And we did, and we kind of did everywhere we went. And again, the football was dross. We was on a hiding to nothing. They were by far and away the best team in the league. They were probably 2 levels above us even then. It was tough. It was a horrible day. I got injured that day as well. Put me out for quite a while.
Is that where you did your back in?
Dude, yeah.
Picking the ball out the net so many times. Is that what it was?
If only. I was a goal kick. It was a goal kick. It was about 6-0 at the time. I took a goal kick. My left foot kind of gave way, and I rattled my back. It was one of those days where you know what's coming, but it kind of galvanised us as well. I think as a club, even, it kind of galvanised us because we knew what was coming. It had been there all season. It would have taken a miracle to get out of it, which we didn't have the funds for, we didn't have the playing staff for. It wasn't going to happen. So why not face it head on? Why not have a party and go out with a bang? Which is what we did, and we all had our heads held high. I mean, Dave Anderson still reads me about it now because he was obviously gaffer that day. I think it's still their biggest ever win. That's all we could do. At that time, that was the best we had, was to go in, come out with some sort of pride and dignity, and the support again was immense. As I say, I mean, I remember coming out the tunnel and seeing the balloons flying everywhere, and they weren't all the Wimbledon ends. They were coming from the left-hand side, and it was great. It was a proud moment as much as it was a tough day that day.
But as usual, things get better, and Steve Bateman comes along and tries to turn it round, and you start playing well. You're doing well. Do you ever regret, maybe, because obviously Slough is your club, as you've said, through the interview, it's your club. Do you regret not winning something with the Rebels?
Biggest regret I've had.
Quite a successful career playing for other clubs and
biggest
and
regret.
whatever.
Biggest regret I have in football is probably the highest point of my playing time for Slough. Romulus was a great day. The day we went to Romulus and we were waiting to hear on other results, and I think we got into the playoffs by a goal. Hitching away, I thought we were destined to get promoted. I really did, and I really wanted it for Bates as well, because I'm gutted for Bates as much as anybody, because he assembled a good side and we deserved to get something out of it over that couple of seasons. But Chesham, we just didn't turn up against Chesham. We just didn't turn up, and it was so disappointing. They was scored in a couple of minutes, and it was downhill from there. And I'm gutted. I was never part of that promotion party that Bakes Unders and some of the squad that are there now. Wazza and Co, Guy Hollis. I'm gutted I was never part of that, because that's what I wanted. That's what I wanted for the club. Don't get me wrong, I mentioned to a few supporters over the years that I always wanted to be with the club when they finally played back in Slough, which I was lucky enough to be part of that. That was great to see. But yeah, it'll always grind on me, the fact that we never got out of the league when I was there.
Was it hard though for you, because obviously at the time when Steve Bateman was manager, you had two goalkeepers. There was you and Ricky Perks was one of them.
Yeah.
Was it hard because obviously you're a Slough boy, you want to play for your home club, but you know, maybe you're only playing a few games, then getting dropped, and someone else comes in and
Yeah,
being out for a week? Was it tough?
Perksy
Even though you're enjoying it?
Perksy was a good goalkeeper. I think he had a dip. He had a dip literally weeks before we got to the last game of the season, which is why I came back in. I think Romulus might have been only my second game in a couple of months. I think we played Bromsgrove midweek, and I think Perksy had a bit of a mare there. And then I played the Saturday, and then Romulus, I think it was. And that's kind of why I thought we were destined to do it. It was like it's written in the stars. I haven't been playing. All of a sudden, I'm coming back. We've got through on the last day of the season against Romulus. We've gone to Hitchin and we've played really well. Hitchin would have thought they were favourites to get promoted. We've gone to Hitchin. I wouldn't say we battered them, but we gave as good as we got. I think they scored late on to make it 2-1. And I really thought we were destined to do it. And we just went to Cheshire when we were crap. We just didn't turn up at all.
But then Cheshire were always a bogey side for us at that kind of time.
They were. They were, and
Bakes have been there.
Christ, as much as I enjoyed my time there, I hate that place because of that. I hate going to the Meadow. Always leaves a bitter taste because of that day. And Dan Burnell, he needs a good kick in as well. Danny Burnell scored a couple that day. Little toad. But yeah, it wasn't meant to be, and maybe the club became stronger for it and went up at the right time under Bakes and unders. But yeah, personally, as I say, it'll always grind me. We never got anything. We never won anything. We never did anything, really. What I like to think is that I was kind of part of the catalyst that kind of stabilised the club a little bit. I was there for 3 or 4 years when we kind of we found a level pegging again. We moved to Beaconsfield, and it kind of, things moved the right way. Obviously, Sweets come in. Sweetman, and then obviously Bates.
I guess the thing is, it's one of those things, because I was going to say to you, but for you coming back and playing at Arbor Park must have been huge, because like you say, Slough back in, and I guess you mostly looked at it and thought, well, I'm not going to play for Slough again, but you did.
Yeah, again, very lucky. I obviously didn't get a first team run in the 90s, but I played at Wexham Park in the 90s, and I was contracted in the 90s, and then made my return in 2007. Played a bulk of the games, or bulk of my games, in the 10s, and then was lucky enough to play the latter part at Arbor Park under Bakes and unders. I was there the day the ground reopened. I brought my boy along to show him and look around the ground, and got his commemorative T-shirt out of me. It was a proud moment. As I said earlier, just the whole serve with honour adage, I don't think it rung as many bells with anybody, or has rung as many bells with anybody at that club, other than as much as me. I've always been very proud to have played for Slough, and as I say, one thing, even when performances weren't the greatest, I've always cared. I've always wanted the best for that club, and I still do. It's a lovely setup there now. Things are moving in the right direction. It's a shame what happened in the playoffs, obviously, but maybe again, now's not the right time. The time will come when the club's sitting pretty and ready to go. But they've done a great job, the boys, by the way. Bakes and unders, they've done superb, as have the people behind the scenes, including Mr. Easterbrook, who will always be a Sir Steve Easterbrook in my eyes.
Absolutely, couldn't agree with you more. I guess if you're obviously buttering Bakes and unders up because you want to play that game in the noughties.
Just one more.
But goalkeepers don't make very good managers. There's not many goalkeepers that do make managers. You don't fancy a spell on the...
Never happened.
No.
I wouldn't even entertain it. Like I kind of said earlier, I'm a dinosaur now, and I can't see me changing anytime soon. If someone wants me to help out warming up a goalkeeper, I might go and do it. But in regards to management, I'm not tactically clued up enough. My fuse is too short. I don't like young lads. I don't like their music. I wouldn't be great in a changing room unless someone wanted a bad cop to just come in and moan at people. Then I might suit that. But management's really not for me. Once once I've done that, it'll be me. I'll be out here swinging clubs really badly. But yeah, I'll never go into management or coaching. The only way I'll be a coach is if you smash my teeth out and put seats in. Definitely not going into coaching.
You say you got a short fuse and you get angry. I did have a few stats. How many yellow cards do you think you got in your 109 Slough games?
Probably, I would say double figures. I reckon 12.
One.
No way. That's wrong. That can't be right.
Well, according to the record, you only got picked up one yellow card.
I tell you what, if it's the one I remember, do you know what game it was, Ade?
No, not off the top of my head.
I think it was over Oxford Way. It was a team in Oxford over Oxford Way. Because I remember the photo. It was, I think it was, because the kit was horrendous. I had a green kit with a yellow stripe down the side, and I've got a picture of it somewhere with a ref holding the yellow. I'm very surprised at that, because I know full well at Burnham, at Chesham, and at Flackwell Heath, I've got reds, if not 3 or 4 reds at each of those. Maybe I was on good behaviour at South. He's serving with honour. What more can you want out of a man?
This is it, exactly. Let's talk the kind of stuff that all the fans want to know. Best ground that you played at?
What, for Slough or in general? Because
whatever game, any team you played for.
Well, as I said earlier, I've been fortunate enough to play at Wembley twice, but bizarrely, as a West Ham fan, I can't stand Man United, as most people can't. But Old Trafford was actually the best ground we played at, and there was no crowd. We played it there last season in May 2019. We played in an Ade Asks Invitational game against a few old pros and some Ade Asks youngsters, and the new Wembley is nice. I mean, I played at Wembley in front of 35,000, so I got the feel of the place, but it didn't have the history that Old Trafford had. Coming out of that tunnel, I didn't even think about it before the game until we got there and the coach pulled up. When we went out in the tunnel in the corner, and you think of all the footage and all the history you've seen there, and the new Wembley doesn't quite have that. It's very, very new, very white, or magnolia. So Wembley was great, but that would be Old Trafford. I really enjoyed Old Trafford purely because of the history and what's gone on there.
Okay, best player you played with, any player, doesn't have to be a Slough player, and the best player you played against?
Robert Pires at Wembley. I was fortunate enough to play with him. I played against him as well, but Robert Pires is different gravy. Lovely bloke, smells amazing. One of the best smelling people I've ever been around, Robert Pires. He's kind of like the man you really want to be. Robert Pires would be the best player I played with. Steve Gerrard, without a shadow of a doubt. It's the best player I've played against. Similar, really, to Pires. When you meet him, he's kind of everything you want him to be. He was articulate. He was pleasant. He was nice. He'd sign anything you wanted. He'd talk to you on a level, and he was the best player on the ball I've ever seen in my life. But he didn't score past me.
What does he smell like, though? That's the main thing.
I didn't really smell Steven Gerrard, to be honest with you. I just said he didn't score past me. He actually scored 8 in an invitational thing for BT Sport in Cardiff past me, but it was 5-a-side, so we won't count that. Smelling Steven Gerrard. That's a news headline.
Well, there you go. This is it, exactly.
Stop press. Jackson smells Gerrard. No, but Pires is lovely. Pires does smell lovely. I can't get away from that fact.
Your best moment in football?
It's a tough one, really. I mean, obviously the Wembley appearances were really good. I think the moment of most adulation was probably for Burnham in the FA Cup, because we were underdogs. We were a team of scrappers living in the shadow of Slough, obviously. Although we were quite well backed at that time. When you talk about finances, although we weren't the best team ever, we were quite well looked after. Burnham had just built the new ground, and obviously we went on a great cup run. We beat some great teams. We beat Canby on the way, Wealdstone on the way, and then obviously got Aldershot in the first round. And I don't think don't think a village team like Burnham should ever be in the first round. But that was a great time. It was a great season. I thoroughly enjoyed. But yeah, I know Slough sports won't really want to hear that, but yeah.
That's right. I can edit that bit out. Don't worry, that's fine.
It just comes back to the grinding on me that I never done anything at Slough. I weren't about when the boys had the great FA Cup runs. Unfortunately, I'd gone on by then. So yeah, I missed out on all the good times at Slough. As I say, maybe I'm just that stepping stone that the club needed at the time. I'm happy to be there.
Exactly, but you are the foundation. That's what it is. Built on the solid
in the
goalkeeping, I don't think. Let's talk about best coach or manager you played under.
Ooh.
Don't say Bakes and Unders just because you won that game.
Yeah. Still here, Bakes and Unders. To be honest with you, Brian McDermott was a really, really good coach. It was obviously the early days for him, but technically he was a brilliant coach. Not so sure about the management side. Don't want to put his nose out of joint either, just in case he needs me at any stage in the future. But no, Brian McDermott was unbelievable, clever, and you could. He was always going to be a top manager, Brian. As much as he hated me and I cheesed him off one too many times.
Okay, so you've got to pick a six-a-side team of anyone that you played with. Give us your 6 players and a little explanation why.
Well, I've gone purely for Slough players, just because otherwise it gets a bit stupid. Because I'm such a superstar now. I've played with so many people. So for a goalkeeper, if we're going Slough, it can only be, again, another Sir Trevor Bunting. I grew up watching Trev, similar to obviously watching local football at the time, Kevin Mitchell, for example, 2 great old school goalkeepers. But Trevor Bunting was like the epitome. Watching week in, week out, thinking, cool, what I'd love to be Trev. And then I was lucky enough many years later to kind of to play with or train with Trev week in, week out. As I say, one of the loveliest geezers, one of the nicest fellas I've ever played football with. And you just never think he was a goalkeeper. Looking at him, he just stereotypically didn't look like a goalkeeper. But he was a proper cat. He was the definition of the word cat, was Trev. But yeah, superb, great goalkeeper. Great servant for the club as well. I think 450 odd appearances, wasn't it? Something ridiculous.
Something like 405 or something like that, yeah.
Massive amount of appearances.
Do your defence, because this will be interesting.
So, bit of a non-league legend, really. When he came to us, I think we supposedly signed him as a centre forward, but ended up as a centre half. Would be Cliff Hercules. Another guy that you look at and you say, "Boy, he ain't a footballer," but he was just immense. He was immense up top. When he came to us and played in defence, he was superb. He kind of really pushed the team onto another level when he played centre half. And obviously, as I say, he was a non-league legend. He'd been about. I'd seen him playing for Aylesbury in the FA Cup runs and all that. So at that time, as a club, we were blessed in that 90s, that late 90s side under Brian. There were some really, really good players there. And as I say, the club underachieved, really. Should have got promotion or been further up the table than we were. And alongside him, I couldn't leave out Daly. You have to have Daly in any Slough side. That's anyone that ever puts pen to paper should have Daly in the side. The geezer was immense. Again, when I rejoined the club, I didn't know Dales personally, but we become really good friends because we had the same ethic. Really, we wanted what was best for the club. We wanted to win. We wanted to not get beat. We wanted to concede the least amount of goals as possible. It weren't working, and it didn't happen. But again, the attitude, like Dales' attitude, was second to none. Every week he'd be in the bar and he'd tell people straight what we were doing wrong, what we were trying to do. Same as Wilco, really. Like great guys for the club and people that you want to have around you when you're going into a battle. Dales was definitely one of them. So
midfield?
Billy Fury. My
I'm so glad you said that, because he is one of my favourite players ever at Slough.
So, I mean, Bill was a bit of a bad father figure. When I joined the club, Billy and his missus at the time, and they lived in Hemel. So I'd be playing with the Stiffs on a Saturday, the first team I get back. I'd jump in Billy's car, we go back to Hemel, and I'd be around Billy's house all weekend just as a drinking buddy. But Bill was great. I mean, again, growing up watching Slough, Billy on the left wing, ducking in and out. He should never been at Slough. Should have gone. I know I think he started at Wimbledon, Bill. Should have been a pro. Was wasted at the club. I think it was only because the football in the community was such a money spinner he stayed at Slough for as long as he did. But Billy, I mean, what a character! A great bloke, so funny. And as a footballer, really, as I say, wasted at Slough. Should have been at Slough. Should have been on to better things. Too many bad injuries at a time when I think he must have had. I think he had an ACL. Bill, I know he was in a bad way for a long time. I think he was setting back because he shouldn't have been at that level of football. Should have been above that. In front of them, Mark West. Again, as a kid, when I was watching conference football and Wickham were kind of pushing their way up, Westy was one of the best centre forwards about at that level of football. And when he came to Slough again, it was training with him. It was a natural goal. So it was the first real natural goal scorer I'd ever seen live and trained with. And another one that brought a lot with him to the kind of setup, and you kind of was a little bit in awe knowing that he's a proper footballer. This is a proper club, and we've got proper players here now. Maybe didn't achieve what he could have, would have, should have at Slough, but yeah, Westy was different gravy to train with, and he, as I say, he'd done it all with Wickham. And then with him, it has to be Mr. Owusu. I can't leave him out, can I? How can I leave him out? Obviously, growing up with Lloyd, played in the same youth team, got his chance that fateful day when he banged 4 over Gavin Murner, who was playing at the time. I think Gavin had the nod, and then Lloyd kind of came in on the rota and then banged 4, and the rest is history. But Lloyd, well, would go down in folklore, wouldn't he, Lloyd? I played with him in the Stiffs when he was struggling to get in the reserve team, and then a couple of months later, bangs 4 goals in the conference, and he's off signing for Brentford, scoring 25 goals a season. Unbelievable. But Lloyd is a great lad, great goal scorer. And as I say, he'll always be a proper Slough Town legend, enthusiastic, keen, and toe-poking goals for fun forever. I can't leave him out. Honestly, I'd never really end of it if I left him out. So you have to have Lloydie up top.
Have you got one more wet message for Bakes and Unders, just because you want to get that game? You've got to realise that Jack's played, I think, 150 odd games without a break. So you just, if Jack wants a day off,
the time is going to come, and I'm just going to sit here waiting. I'm not going to throw out any carrots to Bakes or Unders. They know where I am. They've both got my number. If they need me, and the money's right, maybe, just maybe, I will do them a favour, and obviously play my final game in the 2020s. That'll be it then. I'm definitely not going to play in the 2030s. I promise. Any management watching this in the 2030s, don't bother calling me. I'm done. Finished. Say that.
Jacko, thank you ever so much for joining us. Fitting you in your jet-setting lifestyle. I don't know how you managed to do it.
Yeah, and I apologise for cancelling on you so many times, Ade. I genuinely need a PA. I do. But no, it's been great. It's been great to speak to you, and I hope everyone enjoys listening to my spiel, but takes away from it that I really do love this club, and I'm very grateful to everyone whose path I've crossed over the years at the club, who's supported us, supported me, and always been so lovely. And I hope to get back down there soon and see you all.
Excellent. Have another Guinness. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Jamie Jackson.
Cheers, Ade.
Cheers, Jacko. Thanks for that, mate.